This is the fourth episode of the video series about Abraham's life. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, make sure to watch them. After Abraham hosted the three men in whose form God appeared to him, and they delivered the Lord's message, they set out towards Sodom. However, Abraham also went with them to accompany them. At this point, the Lord wondered whether to hide his future plan regarding Sodom, but eventually decided to tell Abraham that he intended to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, because the inhabitants had committed many sins. Then Abraham asked God if he would destroy the righteous along with the wicked, and if 50 righteous people could be found in the city of Sodom, would he not forgive the entire place for the sake of these people? The Lord, however, said this: "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Then Abraham became afraid that the Lord knew there were not 50 righteous people in that city. So he kept trying to bring the number down, but in the end the Lord said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. After that, he ended the conversation with Abraham and departed. Abraham then returned to his dwelling place. The two angels arrived in Sodom by evening, and when Lot saw them, he ran to meet them and greeted them with great respect. Even though they initially refused, he persuaded them to stay at his house for the night rather than in the wilderness. He hosted them with a great feast, but when it was time to sleep, all the men of Sodom, both young and old, gathered outside Lot's house and demanded that he bring out the men who were staying with him as guests. Lot, willing even to offer his daughters instead, begged them to leave his guests alone. For this they tried to attack him, but the angels, in the form of men, struck the crowd with blindness, so they couldn't even find the door. Thus Lot was saved. After that, the angels warned Lot to leave the city with all his relatives, because God was going to wipe it off the face of the earth. So Lot went to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, but despite his warnings, they thought he was joking, so they stayed. When dawn came, the angels urged Lot to hurry, but he hesitated, so the angels had to save him, his wife, and his 2 daughters because God had mercy on them. They took them to a more distant place, then left them there and told them to go to a nearby place as they would not perish there. However, Lot asked if they could go to a nearby village instead, and God granted this request too, but he told them to hurry and not to look back, or they would die instantly. They went to the nearby village called Zoar, but when they arrived, the Lord rained sulfur upon the city. Lot's wife looked back, and she immediately turned into a pillar of salt. In the morning, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and saw that the entire land was smoking, meaning God had destroyed the cities. But God remembered Abraham, and in the midst of all this, saved Lot's life. To be continued.